Hey, hi guys, it's the Brights coming to you live from our studio kitchen. Because we're going to have studio soon. I keep saying it and saying it and saying it. You watch and see. Watch and see if we don't have some kind
That's
of
right.
studio.
Speak it out, baby.
Speaking it out. So it's 2019.
Goodbye, 2018.
Look,
Good riddance, sayonara. No, it's not Sawyer. Sayonara.
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 So our pastor talked today about kissing stuff goodbye, and we are kissing 2018 goodbye. Goodbye. Bye, Felicia. We're over it. So 2019. Hey guys. Hey, we just saw Misty get on. Hey Eddie, how are you feeling? Kayleen, you and Justin, y'all are always so faithful. We appreciate that. So hey Pam. So it's 2019. I hope you guys had a great holiday. We are getting back in the swing of things. I hope you guys are getting back in the swing. It's January the 6th.
What is it about getting back into the swing of things? I mean, it's just after you come back from vacation or a little time off, you want to take can we take baby steps? Can we have instead of coming back for a full day, can we just start working some half days?
Well, when we first came, we were off for a few days. We went to Disney World and we just kind of got away for a little bit, and it just felt so good to get away. But when we came back, you think you're all ready to face everything. You talk about these big plans,
you
and
wore
then you
me
come
out
back.
at Disney World.
I know.
All right, you were just like, gotta go.
But when we came back, we just didn't feel like we were. It just took a couple days to get back, and Richard worked the very next day. He worked on New Year's Day, so we got back. But we're back in the swing now.
I know a lot of people that worked on New Year's Day.
Yeah, so we're back. So hey, Kayleen. Adios 2018. I know that's right. 2018 actually was a lot of great stuff for us, but 2018 also brought a lot of sadness and sorrow, and it was really mixed feelings about 2018. We're very thankful for the things that were great, but we don't need another 2018.
That's right.
No. And so 2019, so today in our marriage class, we were talking, Richard and I teach a marriage class at our church. We go to Lakewood Church in Houston, and we have a class called Marriage Rocks. And so today we started talking in our class, because all of our marriage classes are talking across the board these next couple of months about relationship goals, visions, dreams, what's the other word? Visions, dreams, goals, just things that we
Planning
have.
for your future.
Plans for 2019, just things that we can do differently going forward because it's a new year. And so we talked about it today. And one of the things that God gave me this word this morning when I was doing my hair, and it was to be intentional on purpose. I don't even know if that's I know it's not an oxymoron, but I don't know if you say the same thing twice in the same sentence, what that's called, but just to be intentional on purpose. Because I think nowadays we use some certain words like intentional or margin, that we need to have margin in our life, or that we need to be intentional, and we're not even intentional about being intentional anymore because we just say that word. So we wanted to be intentional on purpose. Hey, Barbara.
Hey, Mary Banks.
Aw. Hey, Mary.
Hey, thank y'all for tuning in to us and not there's a show right now on CBS. The Emmys.
Oh, the Emmys are on? Oh, that's why. Well, the diehard people are on right now. People that want to make their life better.
That's right.
So if that doesn't help y'all, it's helping us. It helps us when we take notes and we write stuff down and we just kind of jot down a few things and be intentional on purpose. Yes, makes so much sense. Thanks, Barbara. So be intentional on purpose, relationship goals for 2019. And so we wrote a few things down these aren't in any particular order of importance, or might not even be. You guys might need to sit down with your spouse and come up with a whole different list. But we wanted to write some things that are important to us, the same things that we are doing really well in, and some areas that we could work on.
Rosie, hello.
And so
how are you and Steve?
Yay. So relationship goals for 2019, intentional on purpose. So no particular order, just some things that we wrote down. One is to have grace with each other.
Oh, she's loving my new hairstyle.
Uh-oh.
That's not mine. Is it your hairstyle?
It might be your hairstyle. Yeah. It's just that I got a new curling iron,
happy,
and so I'm practicing.
The Golden Globes, they're happy that I just have hair.
Okay, so grace to have grace. Focus. We're going to try 2019. He's going to get ADD medicine.
Focus was your word.
That was my word year before last. Yeah. So discipline was we did a one word thing, kind of jump around for a minute, but we did a one word thing the last few years where instead of trying to write all these New Year's resolutions that we weren't going to keep, that a week later we're mad at ourselves for not keeping it. So we just we did that one word thing.
So we thought discipline was a great word.
Yes.
So that was our word for the year.
And then we did it again.
The next year.
And we might have to do it again. But I had ready one year, and then focus, and those words really helped. But then discipline has been a tough one for us. So we're still working on discipline. It might be a third time. Yes, grace when you don't like your spouse. Grace when you don't deserve it, because that's the whole thing about grace, is that it's given freely. Misty and I we were talking about that in our class this morning, that grace it's a free gift. And so with grace, with our spouse, a lot of times we want to give grace once they've earned it, or once we think that we want to forgive.
They've suffered enough.
They've suffered enough. But I always wanted to give Richard grace after forgiveness. And what God put on my heart a few years ago, what kind of changed things for us, was whenever there was forgiveness, there was grace first and then forgiveness. Grace when it didn't make sense, grace when it wasn't earned, just grace for grace's sake. And when God did that, it softened my heart, then it softened his heart, and then forgiveness was so much different. And it wasn't just forgiveness on the surface.
It's a different atmosphere, because when you have that undeserved grace, when you know that you didn't deserve it, but yet it was extended to you, that's when you get off to yourself, and the Holy Spirit works on you and says, wow, man, your wife really didn't go off on you, and she should have really gone off on you, but she didn't. Mm-hmm. And she extended grace. Man, what a joy it is for her to be your wife. What a gift it is that I've given you, that she's, extending the grace that I would give you through her, And so, we always hear this, that we should see Jesus in our spouse before we see Sherry. I should see Jesus before I see Sherry. And, it takes time. We hear that it takes 9 to 14 years to stop living as me and start to live as we, and it's just a process that we all have to go through. We all go through this, and nobody is free from any of these things happening.
I'm just laughing because thinking about for how many years that he looked at me, Jesus was not the first thing he saw. Just gonna tell you, I'll be straight, be real. So I didn't have grace with Richard. I didn't know. I always expected the worst, even when he was trying to do his best. We had such a history of things and I think vice versa. Even he always expected the worst from me, or expected me to react a certain way, because that's what I had always done, or I expected him to act a certain way, and he'd always done it that way. So we didn't expect goodwill. We didn't expect that the other was going to try to, we're on the same team. We're on the same team.
Everybody's freaking out about 9 to 14 years to stop living as me and start living as we.
Yeah. So
that's on average.
Yeah.
That's on average. 9 to 14 years.
So hopefully if you start getting some relationship information, getting some good marriage advice and marriage tips, and you put it to practice, it won't take you 9 to 14 years, But for us, 9 to 14 years is probably pretty good. It took us, some of that was right at 14 years. Before it started to change, and we've only been together 15 years. So to expect the best from each other, to expect goodwill, don't always assume the worst in your spouse. Don't always assume that they're
diabolically out to get you,
making this diabolical plan. To have grace with each other too, with how not to always be picking on each other about everything. Some of our personalities are different than others. Some of you guys are way laid back and you let things go, but some of y'all are like me, and I'm just more detailed. Things bother me more. Every little thing. I can't. I'm just. It was hard for me to have
melancholy.
Very,
that's your personality, and I'm very sanguine. So even though we're choleric and type A, I still am.
Well, Richard's a double extrovert. He's a choleric sanguine, so he is a double extrovert. He wants to just have fun all the time. He doesn't see the little things. I'm a choleric melancholy, so I'm like an extrovert introvert. It's like I got a little angel on this one and a devil on this shoulder, and they're always telling fighting at each other. But I had to pick my battles with Richard and pick the things that are important to me.
Hey, Stephanie.
Not to be picking. Hey, Stephanie.
Happy New Year.
So not any order, but to have grace with each other this year, to just extend grace in the area that's a problem for you. It might not be the things that you're picking on your spouse. That might be where you have to have grace. It might be whatever that looks like to you. But
so the first video we're doing is relationship goals for 2019.
Yes,
and this is for us. These are the things that we talked about, and we thought they were important for us.
Some we've done really good, and we're banging it out like it's like woohoo. That didn't sound right. And some
I'm
things
like,
that
jumping into that one real quick.
I guess we can talk about sex next. So we're not going to go right into that. So to be more affectionate, Richard and I talked about this just last night about one of the things that we want to do, and is to be more affectionate this year. I am not affectionate. Affection is not my love language. It's like number 4 or something. It's number 2 for Richard. But we're just not hand holders. We have friends that when we're talking to them, they are constantly like touching each other and petting each other, and it's just so sweet. And I think, oh yeah, okay, let me hold your hand. You know, and we're like 1, 2, 3, like are you good? And so last night we went to a party. And Richard was sitting talking with someone, and I walked up, and
because we talked about this, it wasn't just something that came out of the blue. So she was rubbing my shoulder.
Well, we were talking earlier with he was talking to Michael, and earlier he was talking with Steve, and we were talking about working out and muscles, and I was saying Richard's got these like really strong arms. So I walked up to him, and I just started rubbing his arm, and I was doing like this, but he looked really deer in the headlights at me instead of just, hey baby, and I kind of sat on his lap, and he thought, because we have a little code thing, if I think that, you'll see it in these videos.
Yeah, there it is. That's code.
Where I think that I
get
like
back on track.
Get back on track,
you know,
or
hey.
Stop going there. Our other friends have a word, pineapple. If you're somewhere and it's awkward and you don't want to talk about it, instead of
and it makes
calling
you feel
your spouse
uncomfortable,
out, you just say pineapple. And so
you don't say pineapple. They
pineapple,
said
pineapple.
I could go for some pineapple, so you kind of
Not
slip
me.
it in there.
I just say pineapple, pineapple, pineapple. And so I was rubbing his arms, and I walked up to him at a party last night, and I just started rubbing his arms and talking to him. And later he was like, okay, I thought I was in trouble. I thought you were coming up to tell me that I was
Hey, we've been at the party too long. It's time to go home. Just stop talking to the boy. I didn't know what it was. And so, anyways, I like it.
So we want to be more affectionate. So later he said, I thought you were telling me not to do something because we're so bad at being affectionate that he didn't just take it like, wow, baby, that was nice that you came up to me. But he did say that I really like that you did that. So we want to be more affectionate, to hold hands more, to kiss more. Okay, so we talked about this in our marriage class today, and we said, the pre-marriage couples or the newlywed couples are like, what are you talking about, kiss more? And we said to have a 30-second kiss. And we read this one in the books that we did in our marriage class a few years ago, to have a 30-second kiss.
And I think you and the girls were talking about kissing your husbands, and hey, do y'all?
Yeah, how much do you kiss?
How much do you kiss?
I know it's not weird, but you're married a long time. Sometimes you just like peck or you give a little kiss, but you're not like macking out.
You're not doing the movies like, hey,
the Miss Piggy, and remember how Kermit?
Oh yeah,
Miss Piggy used to just get after it
and mac down.
And so we were laughing at the pre-marriage, and the newlyweds are like, oh my gosh, 30 seconds, that's nothing.
We
like
did that
that's
on the way in.
Yeah, we did that just walking through the parking lot. But the married couples are like 30 seconds. Like that's after you quit laughing, then it's hey. Thanks Terry, that's awesome. And so random.
I'm worried about blinding people, Terry.
Look what I bought him. I'm gonna show y'all real quick. Okay, this is one of the things I put in his stocking. His own makeup brush. So we can put this thing, but the light's not working. Because I don't like when he uses, because I'm so picky and I'm so melancholy, I don't want him using my makeup brush because it's gross. It's just gross. And he can't use my toothbrush either. I don't care. Say whatever you want. You judge me, but that's just me. And so, what were we talking about?
I'm talking about, and then they ask, well, how do you know how long is 30 seconds? And I said, well, just start making the noise. Just like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I know. And then Misty, our friend, said, maybe we should do, ask Siri. Hey Siri, tell us when it's 30 seconds.
Or when you're kissing, you don't be looking
behind their head at your watch for 30 seconds. But 30 seconds is a long time to kiss your spouse, and it's a good thing. And it doesn't have to be, it's a non-sexual thing. So we want to be more affectionate, but not necessarily, we're going to talk about sex too, but not necessarily, those are two separate things. To be affectionate non-sexually, and to have sex. But we want to be able to hold hands, to be affectionate. What does that look like to your spouse? Like for me, I don't like PDA. I don't want a whole lot of public displays of affection. I don't mind hand holding, and I like when he takes my hand and walks through, but I don't want him backing out on me in public. But I know at home that we need to be more intentional about those 30-second kisses. Right?
Yes.
And then the guys in the class today were like, oh yeah, but that's going to lead to something. But you know what? It's kind of mysterious. It's kind of seductive even, like to kiss your spouse for 30 seconds and not let it lead to anything else right then. Maybe you do it in the morning or something that they can think about all day instead of immediately, well, as soon as I give them a kiss like that, something else was going to come. But what if you just kiss your spouse because you're just being romantic? So we want to be more affectionate. So to have grace with each other, to be more affectionate with one another, to be good to each other, to be kinder to one another.
I think that's a biggie.
Mm-hmm. Did the light just go off?
I think it went down a little bit.
And so to spoil each other. I mean, how many of you guys if you're married a long time, we forget sometimes to spoil one another and to really just do the little things. So if we...
Go ahead. Yeah.
So if we study one another and we really know what's important to our spouse, wow, that's really bright. Now that forehead is glowing.
Everybody's all like, put your sunglasses on.
That is bright. All right, so
turn it down
a little bit. Yeah. So to be good to each other, spoil each other, to handle our spouse with care. That's good. And our pastor a few years ago did a whole sermon about treating the people in our life like fine china, because we tend to be married a long time, that we tend to to treat one another more like paper plates instead of our fine china, which our fine china is what we take out of the cabinet when special people are coming over, or we're real careful with it.
I didn't have fine china. Fine china to me was if all of our paper plates matched.
Richard and I have totally different backgrounds. If y'all could have seen my mother's table
Oh my gosh, I couldn't even imagine eating it. I'd have been uncomfortable eating. I would have been afraid I was going to spill a drop of food on something.
But you treat your fine china with care, and so if we treat our spouse, we handle our spouse with care, like they're our most prized possession, because there are, and I don't say anything about possession, but you know what I mean. Like the most important thing to us, our most prized thing, we would take care of it. If we had something that meant a lot to us, we're going to take care of it. Would we talk to others the way we talk to our spouse? Richard and I work together, so a lot of times it's real easy for us to just bark an order at each other because we're both we like to get it done, and we're not even angry or mad at each other. We're not careful with.
Just sometimes get so used to it because when I was talking about that 9 to 14 years living as me to we get in this pattern of the way that we talk to each other, the way that we handle each other, the way that we diffuse one another, or the way we ignite each other. And we tend to, I was saying that if something is wrong and when we go to the same broken tool bag to try to fix that same issue, and we're not getting any clarity and it's not changing, it's just continually the same or getting worse, then we have to change some of the things that we're doing. So in 2019, that's what we want to do. We want to be intentionally on purpose doing something that's going to benefit our marriage, because
something that can change it. Because Richard always says your marriage is going to do two things: it's either going to get better or it's going to get worse.
And it doesn't get better by itself.
And they always talk about the definition of insanity, and y'all have heard it, but it's true. It's doing the same thing, expecting different results. This is a new year, a new thing. Let's try something different. I mean, what if you just did one thing different for the next 365 days, or however many days are left, 360 days that are left in this year? What if you did one thing different in a positive way, and a year from now, you could see that one, sometimes it's just one small change. Sometimes you might want to just take little pearls of wisdom and learn different things. Richard and we have a YouTube channel now called The Real Bright. So we're going to put lots of marriage stuff on there. And if this isn't the thing that you're dealing with, maybe it's something else. But we're going to try to start covering every week. We're doing a video on different things to cover so we can be intentional and do things differently with each other. So would we talk to others the way that we talk to our spouse? Would we want to be talked to the way that we talk to our spouse? We got to think about that too, which kind of leads us to self-check. Is that in 2019, one of the things that we can do differently is to do a self-check. And one thing we learned a long time ago, we've said this, is, am I a joy to be married to?
I sure am. Hey,
you are now.
This is when you're supposed to pipe up and be like, yeah, baby.
But you weren't.
Or you were rubbing my shoulder. You were rubbing my shoulder with your shoulder. She was doing that.
But there was a time where we were not a joy to be married to. And it's a really deep question to ask yourself is, am I a joy to be married to? You know, would I like to be treated the way that I treat my spouse?
On a scale of 1 to 10, how is our marriage?
Right now, I'd say a 9. 9, I think. Because there's always room. That's better than it used to be, y'all. We used to be like 2.
No, you used to be like 2. It was always an 8, 8.5 to me. Even though when we were going to do the bad things, it was.
Well, because guys, it's always higher because they're getting sex and food. All their needs are met.
And sleep. Don't forget sleep.
Well, but I mean, sex and food, number 1 and 2, and then those are interchangeable. So it used to crack me up because I think, how is mine a 2 and yours is? I mean, mine's a 2 and yours is. He'd be like 9 because there's always
how are you doing?
Room for improvement. Hey, Kat. Our
amazing niece.
My niece. So am I a joy to be married to? Would I want to be treated the way that I treat my spouse? Huge, big question to, you know, let's make 2019 the year that we fix some stuff, that we fix some stuff in our life, some things that we have maybe been dealing with a long time. Let's get over it. It's time to move on and talk, get some help and fix some stuff, work through some stuff this year and be able to move forward. Instead of having the same old thing in 2020 that you're dealing with, maybe you're always going to have new things to deal with, but maybe try something different this year so you're not dealing with the same old thing.
Absolutely.
So do a self-check. Am I a joy to be married to? Hey, Bethy. For real. Carve out time to connect with each other. This is a big thing. I think everybody nowadays, it's really hard for them because they have kids and everybody's busy with activities and life is just, everybody can talk to life.
You have to be intentional. You know, you have to make that plan. And hey, tonight's a date night. Friday night's a date night. I mean, you know, we used to not have date nights. So it's a time in our life that really couldn't afford date nights, but it doesn't mean that you can't go out and do, you know, when you hear date nights, like, oh, we got to go spend money, we got to go to movies, we got to go out to dinner. And, you know, we just didn't have the funds at the time. So a date night to us would be where we would just drive. Sometimes we would just make some sandwiches and go to the park and just sit in the car and just talk or get out on the, put a blanket out and just, you know, spend time together without really even spending any money, right. You know.
But it was just, we had to carve out, back then, so it's kind of 2 things really. One is carving out time with each other and one is having fun with each other. So they're kind of interchangeable, so I guess which one do I talk about more?
Whichever one.
Okay, so carving some time out for each other. There's a lot of things drawing us from all different directions nowadays. And now there's so much screen time that we get into this habit that we're just talking to each other and we're on our phones.
I would love to be able to spend time with you, but I've got to be on Facebook making videos.
Yeah, well, that's right, like right now. But you know, one of the things that I've done in the last probably month or so is instead of having my phone next to the bed, I put the phone in the other room. Put it in the other room, plug it in, and not have it there. So it's not the thing I'm looking at before I go to sleep. It's not the first thing I look at in the morning. It's not something that I'm like, can't wait to get to it, you know. And it hasn't been a big deal. It's been so nice to not have it there.
I need to get my phone fixed.
So to limit our screen time, talk to your spouse and ask them. I don't know, am I on?
Hey, Debbie, how are you?
Hey, Deb. If I'm on my phone too much, ask your spouse. They'll tell you if you're on your phone too much. There's times when we'll go out to dinner and we'll check our phone, but we try to be really careful about checking it or maybe showing each other something. I just don't like to mess with it
because it's such you get in such a bad habit of absolutely absolutely, you know, and I don't want to do that. I want to have face-to-face time. I want to be able to talk through issues. I want to be able to talk about our life, make sure that everything's going good.
And we like to have face-to-face time when we go to dinner. We don't like to sit next to each other in a booth. We like to sit across from each other so we can see one another. But we also really like a shoulder-to-shoulder time. Not necessarily just sitting there just being all intense in each other's face. It's just that shoulder to shoulder when we wake up in the morning and we lay there and we talk and we pray and we have that time together, or if we're both in the kitchen together doing something, or if we're on vacation and we're just walking together, but we really like that shoulder to shoulder time. Let's see, Terry says we're doing a daily planner and goals, sit down twice a week and communicate with each other. That's awesome. That's really good. And so that's it. Everybody has to do what looks right. What does that look like to you?
What works for us might not, or works for Terry and works for other people might not work for everybody.
And so to carve out that time together and to be a safe place to each other so that when we are together that we can talk to each other. What are the, you know, is that, I want to be a safe place to fall. I want Richard to be able to come and tell me the innermost things of his heart, and he knows that I'm going to receive it and I'm not going to turn on him, and that we're a safe place and that we can be vulnerable with each other. Because when we really started getting vulnerable with each other and able to talk about the deep things, that's when things change for us a lot. So to carve out time to connect with each other, to make sure that you're taking time every day to pray with each other. There's Rory. He's saying, hey,
Rory, what's up, my brother?
So we have a whole video that we did on YouTube about praying together and how that can change things. So carve that time, whatever that looks like to you, what your spouse is missing and what you guys need to do. So which leads us to also having fun together. We love to have fun together. And there's a time we couldn't afford, like Richard said, to really go out and do things. But we always made time, whether it was just going to the park and hanging out or getting with friends and having fun. But now things have progressed a little differently. And now we get to go out on weekends away. We always go out to dinner. We go on vacations a lot. We like to get away. Even if we just go do a comedy gig out of town, we try to always spend an extra day just so we can hang out.
You know, I was talking about that earlier in class today, that there was a time where I didn't want to even go home. I didn't want to come home because men tend to gravitate to where they're a champion, where are we getting our trophies. You know, if we're at work and we get all the attaboys and we're just slaying it at work, well, we're going to tend to be at work all the time because that's where we're getting what we need and we're getting all the kudos. And when we come home and we're arguing and we're fighting and we have a tumultuous marriage and it's just not good, man, you just don't want to be there. So I didn't want to come home. But you know what? There was a process. I could either believe that, man, that she was against me and that God wasn't for us and our marriage was failing and we weren't going to be able to do this, or you know what? There are no doors and windows. Mary and Melvin taught this in a class one time. There are no doors and windows in this marriage, and we're going to work through everything. And that helps put all of this stuff in perspective, because then you can say, you know what? You stop throwing the D word around, and I was saying the divorce, hers was death. Fun. You're not getting out of here. Oh yeah, fun. There we go. Thank you, baby. Yes.
Hold on, let me do my little thing. Maybe let's get back on track. Talk about fun.
Fun.
It's not fun right now.
Okay.
Okay,
fun.
so have fun. But I think that's really a good point, because if we can, it's hard to have fun with one another if we're dealing with all the stuff he's talking about.
Side note, rabbit trail. We were going to go out and have dinner and have fun. So we get out there and I said, you know what? I know what I'm going to do. I remember seeing this video about write down what you think your marriage is on a scale of 1 to 10, and you trade it with your spouse, and then you look at it, and then you talk. And so I was going to write down a 9. I go, but no, there's no, so 8.5. 8.5 is good. And then she looks at it. She goes, can I get mine back? And I'd already taken it. I said, no. And I look at it and I'm like, a 2? I'm like, this marriage is a 2? And she goes, it just went to a 1.
Well, it was hard to have fun back then because that's how we were. We were not in a good place. But so we want you to be intentional about all these things that we've been talking about.
Stephen, we miss you too, my brother.
Hey, Stephen. Hey, Marlo. To be talking about, we've been talking about having grace with one another, to be more affectionate this year with one another, to give a self-check, are we a joy to be married to be good to each other more, to have goodwill toward one another, to have fun together, to carve out time together, but to have fun together. Richard and I, it wasn't, sometimes it would be to go do something fun, like maybe learn how to dance, or we went to a comedy class like 8 years ago.
We did all these things that she wanted to do, and I didn't want to do any of them. I didn't want to go to comedy class. I didn't want to go to improv class. I didn't want to go to church. I didn't want to put our money together because I didn't have any and she did. And so when we heard the pastor, I wanted to do that because I thought that was a great idea.
So what was the point?
Tawana, how are you?
What were you going to say? Tawana. About having good ideas.
Yeah. Oh, of course you don't forget that. So yeah, all the things that you wanted to do have all worked out. So that's been great. That's that Proverbs 31 life.
So having fun together and to do some fun things, and we started teaching marriage classes together. We just started volunteering in a marriage class 13 years ago or so, and just making copies and just doing that something together. It wasn't necessarily fun, but it was something we did together, some shoulder to shoulder activity, which actually ended up being fun, and it ended up being the thing that we love to do the most, which is talking to couples. We started telling our story all the time. People started laughing at our stories, and now we get to go around and do our story and tell comedy. I mean, how... You don't know, when you really prioritize your marriage and you do things, God will start, that was not a desire in our life at all, but God will give you the desires of your heart, and he gave that desire to us. It was not a desire that we had at all, but just when we made our marriage priority and when we put each other first, and I'm not saying above God, but I'm saying earthly wise, above our kids, above our work, above everything, that's when God started revealing stuff to us. Yeah. So another thing is sex. To make sex a priority in 2019. You know, we talk to couples all the time that are just...
Matter of fact, this video is only going to last about 5 more minutes.
You know, so...
I'm teasing.
We're almost
Six,
we're almost
three.
Empty nesters, so it's different for us. We're in a different season. It's a really fun season right now for us. But there's different seasons. Sometimes people have kids and they have different things going on. But to make marriage a priority, you know, what does that look like? Because when we used to try to do that, it would sometimes cause the biggest arguments, the biggest fights, because we weren't on the same page. So we heard Jimmy Evans talk about having a vision in every area of your life. And so when we got a vision and talked about even sex, you know, what does that look like to you? And I was like, okay, so how many times a week is good for you?
7 times a week, once a day. It's good for me. I knew it wasn't going to be that, but I figured shoot high and shoot for the stars, and if you hit the moon, then hey, you're good, you know.
So we had to say what was a good number for us, like what were we both comfortable with, and it was awesome because then we kind of knew. It's not like, okay, well now it's been this many times, and now mark off 3, 4, you know, like it's not like that, but it does give us a gauge to be like, you know what, we got to get back on track. So we want to make sure that we're have a good vision in that area. It's always such an awkward thing to talk about. But to make it a priority, and sometimes we're dealing with so many other things in our life and all these other things that it's hard to have sex with your spouse. But sometimes,
you know, and we went through that in the beginning part of our marriage when, you know, I had the issues with pornography and, you know, wanting to have sex, and it was just different. It would throw her off because it was just, you know, it just wasn't right, you know, and she knew that I was sneaking around, buying videos, getting magazines, telling her that I wasn't, and then, hey baby, me and you. Well, you know what, when your marriage isn't up front and you're not open and honest with each other, and you know that there's some hidden agendas going on, and you know, it makes it hard. It just
I
really
think
does.
As a woman too, because he'd say, I'm not cheating on you, but it felt like you were cheating. You know, might not have been a physical person, but to me, I just felt like, well, I'm never enough. So what's the point? Why do you even want to have sex with me? Because it's never enough. Or I think, man, we had a great night last night, and I'm all like, yeah, walking around like, how do you make that sound? Boom, chicka, boom, whatever. and then I find out, and then I would catch him, find out about some porn or whatever, and I think, really, are you kidding me? And so, as a woman, I think self-esteem wise, it was really, really hard on me. And Richard, if some of y'all know our story, when we first got together, we were doing a lot of partying back then, and so sex was off the chart crazy. And so then when we started going to church and we decided to just live a little more normal life, it was different. It was different. We weren't up for 6 or 7 hours, and you know, I have to get into all the details, but it's hard. It's a lot of couples don't make it when they go from that lifestyle to just a normal everyday, but you can still have and I say normal, it doesn't have to be boring, you know, but just a normal life, a normal everyday, a normal sex life with your partner, not stay up for hours and hours and hours. Yeah. Sometimes quick's okay, you know. Sometimes romantic is okay, and sometimes women, I think, you know, we judge our bodies so much. I tell our class all the time, for $30 you can go to Costco and get these little candles. I wish I had one I could show you. Get these little candles that have batteries in them, and you don't have to worry about the house burning down, and they come like 6 in a deal. You can light up your room, you know. Doesn't have to be like big fluorescent huge lights on. It's just enough to make it romantic and you feel kind of sexy, and it's worth $30, you know? Very, very worth $30. And so I'll tell you a couple funny sex stories. Y'all want to hear a couple? Richard's like, what? Okay, so 2 of them involve our daughter. So when she's 20 now, but when she was about 7 years old, Richard and I were newly married, and she was still coming to our house on weekends back then. And so one day she was in my closet and trying on shoes and stuff like that. And she said, when you Sherry, when you die, can I have all your Halloween costumes? Crickets.
Yeah,
Crickets.
Exactly. And I was all like, all of them except the firewoman. You can't have the firewoman.
So be creative, y'all, go do it. But anyway, I just thought that was always a funny story. So now the reason I'm telling y'all that, because fast forward, we've been telling that story for years. Every once in a while we remember it and tell it again. But now, 14 years later, our house flooded a year ago. So a lot of things, people were here helping us put stuff away in our house and, put a lot of stuff in Ziploc bags, and they
So she found some laundry.
Well, let me tell them, because it's kind of had to lead up to it. So a lot of stuff people just put in big bags. So we put it in the storage room, and we were out of our house for almost a year. And so when we got back into our house, we were slowly taking bags out of the garage. Well, some of it I thought just was gone. I figured it got ruined or whatever. Some things people were able to put away. So I found this bag full of lingerie, and I was so happy. It was like Christmas. I was like, awesome. So I decided, Hannah usually does her laundry on Mondays, and so it was like Saturday. So I took all the laundry out into ours is out in the garage, and was going to put it all in hand wash and do different cycles and all this stuff. And I had it all hanging up and everything, thinking that she would never go out there. And so she decided to do laundry on Sunday. That weekend. And so she saw it. I guess she put it all away. She kind of used everything, but she didn't say anything to me, and I forgot. And so then later I was like, oh gosh, like she's gonna, that's so weird. And so I said, hey, I had some laundry out there. And she goes, yeah, I saw it. And I said, I told her the story about how long we'd had it, and that it was, and so she said, oh, thank God. She goes, I thought that was what y'all used last week. And she said, all I kept thinking about was gross. Where was I? So I thought that was a really funny story. And so she said, either that or you didn't do laundry for a long time. But anyway, so that's just a funny story. So be creative, make sex intentional, make it a priority, have a vision in that area that you can talk about, that what looks good for y'all. If you guys are dealing with some stuff like pornography and different things like that, talk about it. This is the year to get past some stuff, for us to do self-checks, to stop dealing with the same old year after year. Let's step it up and change some stuff so we can get to what God really has for us. Because the enemy lies, and he will keep you in all this turmoil and mess. And so what else? Last thing is to have a vision and a goal for your marriage, to dream together, to go for it. If money, what did we hear the other day? If you knew you couldn't fail and money was no object, what would you do? What would that look like to you guys? What would you do in your marriage? What would you do as a goal, as a marriage goal, or maybe a business, or I don't know what that looks like to you. Is that going for your dreams? If you knew you couldn't fail, what would you do?
I would be a professional unicyclist. Juggler. Fireman.
Every day. I mean, for us, if money was no object and we knew we couldn't fail, ours is going for our dream, which is going for our marriage ministry, which is doing this full time, which is getting to do comedy on a stage every night if we could, because we love doing it. We love talking about marriage. We love encouraging people. We know one day, we believe God is going to let us not have to work other job and to do this. So, but talk about that. What are your visions?
Marriage
and your goals
can be so
and your dreams?
fun and so good, and it builds such a unity and a partnership that it's second to none. It's the best thing that can happen on this earth. That's what God created marriage for, was to have heaven on earth. But when it is done wrong, it's a living hell. And that's just the truth. I'm not pulling any punches here. I'm not making stuff up. When we do marriage wrong, and when we get marriage out of order with the way God intended it, it's a living hell. All right. So
and
the
we
fun
know because we lived it.
Man, we lived it for, when I was saying it takes 9 to 14 years to stop living as me and start living as we. I mean, at year 6 or 7, we were ready to get divorced again. We were going to get divorced again. So now this would have been her third divorce. It would have been my second divorce. And we'd have taken all of the hurts and pains from all these past relationships and past marriages that we didn't work on, and take it to a fresh relationship. And eventually we're going to drop the bag. We're going to drop the baggage that we're carrying, and somebody's going to have to go through it. And when we start to do that, that's when we're going to start growing, right then and there. When we start dealing with this excess baggage of the stuff that happened to us when we were kids, in other marriages, at school, just embarrassing situations, being made fun of, being picked on. When we start to deal with those, then that's when our marriage is going to
we start to talk to our spouse. And I don't know, some of y'all may need to go get professional help, and there's nothing wrong with that. Go and but do whatever it is that you need to do to get past the things, so you can get to what God has for your marriage, because that's when things really start to change. Yeah. So we're going to have to hop off here. So we want to just, kind of recap real quick. 2019 relationship goals is to be intentional on purpose. That's our goal for this year, to have grace with each other, to just have grace before forgiveness. Grace is a free gift, so let's give it to our spouse, whether or not they deserve it or not, and then see what happens. See how they how they don't act differently. I mean, maybe if you treat them different than you've always treated them, maybe you'll get a different result.
And when something like that happens, then talk about it and be able to say, you know what, the way you talked to me yesterday when such and such went down, I appreciate that, because I wasn't ready for that. I wasn't ready for you I didn't think you were going to be like that. So, you know, talk about it, because sometimes we think like, wow, that's a pretty good moment. And then we keep it to ourselves. So our spouse never hears that, hey, you like that or you didn't like that. You know, they hear a lot of times when you don't like something, but when you like something, we don't talk about it much, you know?
So grace, we're going to be intentional purpose, have grace with each other. We're going to be more affectionate with each other this year.
30-second kisses every day.
30-second kisses, non-sexual.
Can't wait to get off this video.
So we can kiss for 30 seconds. And be good to each other, spoil each other, learn each other, know each other better. Let's treat our spouse like they're our most prized thing, like they're our fine china, because they are. They're most number one priority in our life. To have sex, to make sex a priority. Yeah. All the guys say, yeah, physical touch.
That Richard and Sherry, I like them.
Self-check, you know, that we're going to check ourselves and ask,
Before you wreck yourself.
Ask, are we a joy to be married to? Would we want to be treated the way that we're treating our spouse? Carve out time for one another, to prioritize our time with each other, and to find out what that looks like talking to your spouse. For some, you might just need 10 minutes. Some of you just maybe have a lot of hurt and you just need more time. Pray with one another, to have your visions and your goals for this year, to talk about doing a new thing. The Bible talks about a new thing, so let's do a new thing in 2019. Right?
That's right.
Yeah, so we appreciate you guys, and if you guys can share our videos, that really helps us a lot. We have a YouTube channel now called The Real Brights. Our website is The Brights.
We're trying to reach 1 million couples, and right now we only need 999,090. So we're making a dent.
We're going for our dreams. All right, so we appreciate y'all.
If it was easy, everybody would be doing it.
Go for it. Just we would appreciate it if you share it. But thank y'all, and have a great 2019. It's gonna be off the charts.
See ya.
Bye.